The origins of this conflict go back to 2014 and the revolution that overthrew former President Viktor Yanukovych. Yanukovych was seen by President Putin as being Moscow's man in Ukraine. Yanukovych was overthrown in a revolution that was sparked by anger over his hesitancy on signing an agreement that would have taken Ukraine closer to the European Union membership. Following the overthrow of Yanukovych, literally just a couple of weeks later, Russia illegally annexed Crimea with use of what became known as the Little Green Men. These were Russian soldiers that went onto the Crimean peninsula not wearing any insignia on their uniforms and wearing masks. At the same time, an armed rebellion started in the east of the country amongst people who, so they say, associated themselves more with Russian culture and language than the leadership, the Ukrainian leadership in Kiev. Now, Russia has always denied arming the separatists, but after months of fighting, thousands of people killed, vast areas of vital infrastructure destroyed, and more than 1 million people displaced, forced to flee their homes, an agreement was signed in the Belarusian capital, Minsk, that envisaged a ceasefire and a pullback of heavy weapons from both sides of the contact line. Now, 6 years after that agreement was signed, it's now widely considered to have been an utter failure. There are still violations of the ceasefire, there is still evidence of heavy weapons being close to the contact line, and the agreement, by analysts say, is always been widely in Russia's favour. They say that Ukraine had very little choice but to sign it because it was losing the war. On a political level, it eventually sees a gradual devolution of power to the separatist-held areas, changes to the Ukrainian constitution as well. And critics of it say, realistically, they do not see it as being a viable agreement that will bring an eventual political settlement and peace to the region. There have also been criticisms over the so-called Normandy format. This is Germany, France, Russia and Ukraine trying to hash out a lasting political settlement. Germany in particular has come under criticism for wavering on how much pressure to put on Russia and how much support to give Ukraine. And this is all to do, what critics say, is to do with a gas pipeline to supply gas from Russia to Germany. Germany says that this has got nothing to do with politics and is purely business, but as I say, it has called into question just how viable a negotiating partner Berlin is. So why has this recent escalation happened? A lot's to do with that huge troop deployment by Russia to the Ukrainian borders, what was estimated to be around 100,000 Russian forces. What Russia says was purely a military exercise. Why has Putin done this now? Analysts say it's all to do with putting pressure on the new Biden administration in Washington, trying to test the mettle of Joe Biden, the new US president. There's also speculation as to whether he has been trying to galvanize support amongst his voter base ahead of parliamentary elections in Russia scheduled for September. Russia is now withdrawing those forces from the borders, but it is still got control of the Kerch Strait, that is a vital waterway that connects here, the Azov Sea, with the Black Sea. Russia saying that will be closed to the Ukrainian and foreign navies until the end of October. Politically, it's stalemate as usual, no movement on the political level. President Zelensky says that he wants to meet with President Putin. Putin has intimated that that meeting will happen. Putin says it will be all to do with what he describes as bilateral relations. Putin insisting that if there is to be movement politically, then Zelensky has to speak directly with the separatist leadership in the eastern occupied areas. And that is so far something